let's get to the Minnesota Vikings. I knew we missed something. The Minnesota Vikings are picking 12th in the first round. Traps, since I forgot who I asked about the Packers. What do you think about I need a vacation. What do you think about the Minnesota Vikings prospects? What do you think about their team needs and what prospects fit for them to draft at 12th overall?
Okay, on All Things Covered, Patrick Peterson reported that he was coming back to the Vikings himself. He was his own insider. And he mentioned that he would like the Vikings to pick Derek Stingley. I mean, that's not that Patrick Peterson has any say in the war room on draft night, but pairing the two LSU former standouts there, I think would make a lot of sense. We haven't seen a lot of Derek Stingley over the past 18 months on a football field. He's been injured. Corner, edge rusher seem to be the two most obvious priorities for them. And I don't think wide receiver is completely out of the question, given the age of Adam Thielen. You have a superstar in Justin Jefferson, but to get a younger player that will help get the most out of Kirk Cousins, they extended him again this offseason, kind of weirdly. Someone like Jameson Williams, where they maybe would say, hey, we have our 1 and 2. If you can play in November when we're trying to make a wild card push, we're fine with that. So I would be okay with wide receiver, but someone like Derek Stingley, I'm not in love with Jermaine Johnson, but I would understand it because they do, or they could use kind of that project, kind of long-term view at the edge rusher spot, even though they have Donnell Hunter and signed Zadarius Smith. But it's crazy with Derek Stingley that a month or two ago, he was considered a top 5 prospect. Haven't really seen him on the field, hasn't done anything during the pre-draft process. He could be there at 12. I think that would be great value for Minnesota at a position of need.
He could easily be there at 12, right? I mean, I
feel like he's going
Josh,
to be.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Josh in the draft process, just really over the last, it sort of reminds me of maybe David Amerson coming out of NC State. Remember when he was like going to be the top 5? It's like, oh, he's a top 5 block. And then Cordarrelle Patterson turned him into a piece of burnt toast on the first weekend. And he fell to the second round, I think. But like, and Stingley won't fall that far. But if you talk about like the two biggest losers in the draft process over the past 6 months, have to be Kayvon Thibodeau and Derek Stingley, if we believe that these drops are real, right?
Yeah, it's probably in line with a Derwin James situation. You know, a guy that's probably a top 5 talent overall when healthy. But because of those injury concerns, he slides a little bit farther than maybe what was anticipated when they declared for the draft. I believe I had Minnesota taking Derek Stingley in my mock draft today. We're back on track because Traps mentioned the two guys that I had written down. We had Derek Stingley and Jermaine Johnson. Because it seems like the Vikings have decided that they're going to push back a rebuild, that they're going to try to be competitive for a year or two. I think Stingley is more, impactful in the short term. Jermaine Johnson is a guy that, could be more of a long-term play, works into a rotation immediately, and is the eventual replacement for a Donnell Hunter or a Zadarius Smith. So those are the two most common scenarios that I've been working through as it relates to Minnesota. But because Trapp stole my 2 in the first round, I will give a couple of day 2 prospects that they could possibly consider. And that is Christian Harris, a linebacker from Alabama. And working back to Traps, it's his guy, Boise State wide receiver Khalil Shakir, to possibly be that guy that takes over for Adam Thielen and plays opposite Justin Jefferson.
I dig it. I actually thought I had Stingley going to the Vikings in my mock, but I went Jermaine Johnson and then had Stingley going to the Texans at 13. I think you could, obviously
either team.
Earlier. Yeah, I mean Stingley, like I sort of wonder how much input or info Pat P would have. I mean, obviously pretty far removed from like 10 years apart, but you sort of wonder. I mean, I would assume he's still able to,
They've worked out together. We had Stingley on the All Things Covered over the summer.
If I say something about the Eagles or Carson Wentz, I expect the voice, right? The voice of
Wizard of Oz
to pop in. I forgot it was Pat P who's on.
You don't expect me to talk about my favorite podcast?
I again, I'm not thinking correctly.
Yeah, they have a relationship. I mean, Pat went back to work out with Derek Stingley and kind of work out against Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. So, I mean, Justin Jefferson has that tie to Derek Stingley. They worked together for that title.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's a good call. Yeah, so I mean, I would actually even argue that if those guys believe Stingley is like legit that he's just getting sort of a bad rap because of the injuries and because of the obviously 2020 was a weird year. Well, I guess no wait, did the LSU win the title in 2019? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then like 2020 was a weird year. Like maybe you didn't have play your best on the field. That's okay. We'll cut you some slack. You could potentially look at just depending on what the Jets do at like where Sauce Gardner goes. Maybe Minnesota's even a possibility to trade up and grab Stingley if they're worried that I don't know who knows what the hell the Seahawks will do at 9. But if like the Jets go pass rusher at 4, maybe they think, all right, Seattle's willing to trade down. Let's move up and swap with Seattle and get ahead of the Jets in case they're trying to get Stingley at 10. I don't think that's a crazy notion. So maybe keep that in mind if you're betting Stingley over unders. All right, let's get